Hello, North Kansas City Hospital Laboratory team. Welcome to my home office. I'm here this evening to go over our CEU requirements for customer service and performance expectations. So before we get started, I want to give a huge shout out to Clarice Cunningham. We all know how fabulous she is. This is a presentation that she put together for her customer service in training a lot of our new laboratory assistants. And all I have done is expanded it a little bit to include the entire laboratory team, added a few slides here or there. And so I think you will enjoy her information. It's very good. And let's go ahead and get started. So let me share my screen here, see if I can do this correctly. All right, here we go. There's the shared screen. Let's put it on presentation mode. All right. So, Laboratory Customer Service and Behavior Expectations by Clarice and myself. So, why do we need customer service? Because we have to make sure we have excellent customer service. It really is so important to treat our patients well for two reasons. Number one, they get to tell their friends, neighbors, loved ones about their experience at North Kansas City Hospital, and then that drives more patients to our doors. And that's a good thing, right? Because then it's job security. We also want to make sure that they have good care because when they need care later on, they're going to remember our hospital and come back. So it's simply the right thing to do, as Clarice has put in good plain language there. And we need to remember that customer service is that positive, memorable experience. And it really is all about building that loyalty, that trust, and creating great understanding. And when we talk about customer service, we are a lot of customers to each other, aren't we? So who really are all of our customers? Well, of course, I've already mentioned that our patients are our customers. Any visitors coming into the hospital will be our customers. Certainly, as a laboratory service department, we are serving other healthcare providers, so our nurses, our physicians. And then, yes, I totally agree that we are customers to each other. With that being said, how do we conduct ourselves? What is the best way that we can act so we can provide that excellent customer service? Well, first off, highlighted here is behaving and having conduct in a respectable manner. And then we always have to be professional. It's really important that, as we go up and down the hallways, our patients are watching. As we go into patient rooms, our other healthcare providers are watching. Our behavior defines who we are. It not only defines who we are as a professional, but it defines who we are as a laboratory department. So we do want to make sure that we're presenting ourselves in the best way possible and interacting with all of our customers in a professional manner. It really takes that integrity, which is really keeping our emotions in check. It is important to have peaceful relationships with each other and try to reduce any of that negativity in the workplace. Now, we're going to have some slides in the future coming up here that describe we can't always control what goes on around us, but we can control how we react to it. So sometimes you might be involved in a negative interaction, and we'll go through how you can best handle those situations. The famous slogan, right? Treat others how you would want to be treated. I like to say treat others exceptionally more than the way you want to be treated. This is an everyday habit that ensures that our conduct will always remain true and consistent. So what are some of those unwelcoming behaviors that we want to avoid? Well, certainly, I've talked before about energy. People can read our energy sometimes just within 14 feet of approaching us. And if you have a scowl on your face, that's not going to present yourself in a very positive way. So trying to be, smiling, have a neutral facial expression, being engaged in discussions where, you're nodding and encouraging more dialogue. Those are all always good things, but we don't want to be walking around with a scowl. Negativity. That's when, there's nothing positive to say. Really, I would like to challenge anybody that thinks everything is terrible because there's always something to be happy about or something to be grateful for. Temperamental behavior is really unpredictable. That's not very welcoming, is it? Those mood swings, you walking on eggshells, you don't know how to approach somebody because they're different every day. That can certainly be a challenge. And probably the worst is toxic behavior. So those are those really unpleasant behaviors that really can drain anyone's energy. And that toxic behavior can have a major impact not only on each other, but certainly on the facility. So any of that display in front of our patients or in front of other professionals within our organization is really going to be viewed in just, it's not a good thing. Some other unwelcoming behavior. How about intimidating behavior? Ooh, words, actions, or threats that can make people very uncomfortable, even fearful. Incivility is being rude or discourteous. We want to try to avoid that at all times. And forming cliques, I know that when we get to work, we look forward to working with some of our teammates. We enjoy being with them, but we also want to remember that we don't want to develop what would be called a clique, which is a circle or a group of people that often exclude others. That can be very hurtful. And people know, when there's a clique and that clique is talking about them. It's not a professional way to behave. And how about the slacker? That person that always strives to do the bare minimum. That can be a problem on a team. And gossiping. We're going to be talking about that several times during this presentation because it really is unprofessional and it is one of those behaviors that can really lead to a toxic work environment. So if we know what is inappropriate or unwelcoming, what are some of those welcoming behaviors? Well, we want to build trust. So if you're a trusting person, you're going to have a lot of integrity, behaving in an honest and sincere manner. You do need to be assertive, so respectfully being able to express your thoughts or ideas. Instead of being exclusive in a clique, you want to be inclusive, include everyone and treat everyone equally. Here's respect again, that valuing the feelings of others, listening, being able to provide positive feedback when needed. And certainly empathy. Being empathetic is really sharing in another person's feelings, understanding them on a deeper level. And sometimes that requires asking more questions so that you can be engaged in that dialogue and understand just a little bit better. Integrity, that strong moral compass, the principles, values that you live by, and always being helpful. Look for ways that you can help your team using your time wisely. I know throughout the day I'm not, 100% busy, so I come out and see where I can help. And when you're on a team, that's the right thing to do. Just check in and see where you can help anybody else on your team. So we talk about professional behaviors. It's important that every day we come to work following the dress code. We do want to make sure that we have showered, we smell clean. I've addressed previously sometimes that, we don't always know our own body odor. So please, please, please tell me if I forgot to add deodorant that day because I want to make sure that I am professional and not being offensive to any one of you. We've had some concerns about people in their shoes. I know you wear your shoes for a 12-hour stretch. They probably need to rest just as much as you do. But taking those home, adding a little foot powder is always a great idea. We do want to make sure that everybody comes to work with a positive attitude. Stuff happens, right? Maybe you stepped on your cat that morning or your baby burped on you or somebody cut you off in traffic. But when you come to work, always try to maintain that positive can-do attitude of how we can make our workplace better and how can we take care of our patients better. We do want to make sure that everybody's on time. We've got the point system, right? Those add up before you can, really know what's going on. And anytime you call in, People get sick. I get that, but just make sure that you're keeping that to a minimum because we love having you work here and we don't want to have to, separate your employment because you've gotten too many points. So hopefully your supervisors or myself have had a discussion with you as those points get to be a little bit high because we want to make sure that you're aware of the point system and that, you can respond accordingly and hopefully get some of your situations resolved so we can see you more often. Everybody wants to come to work doing their best. I believe that. And when we get later on into the presentation, I have what I call the rules of engagement. We'll talk about some of those things that might get in the way of doing our best, but I truly believe people want to do that every day. And we want to come to work ready to take good care of each other and our patients. So, what is professional behavior? It's really delivering excellent service, it's finding innovative solutions, providing direction, developing self and others. So, working well within your team, it's embracing change, and it's using your resources wisely to achieve great results. Let's talk a little bit about assumptions. What are assumptions? Well, that's something that someone would believe is true without really having proof. So how about, you see two people talking, you think that they're talking about you, you make that assumption, you get pretty upset, and then you kind of have the rest of your day is just shot, right? Because you're upset, you're not, engaging with them. And as humans, we have a tendency to do this. So if you look at that little brain down there with the cogwheels, we really are hardwired towards negativity. It has been scientifically proven 14 to 1 that, our amygdala, which is our primitive part of the brain, lights up first. And that's where all of our negativity is, right? Our fight, flight, or freeze response. And as adults, and certainly as professional adults, we need to slow down and we need to stop that amygdala from controlling our reactions and instead wait, think it through, and then be able to respond appropriately. Because assumptions can cause a lot of damage. It causes hurt feelings when we don't have all the facts. And so we really do need to stop jumping to those conclusions. Because what do? They create judgment. And judgments based on assumptions really do hurt other people. And I believe every time you judge somebody, it's actually revealing a part of yourself that needs healing. So think about that for a minute. If you're judging somebody because they made a mistake, well, guess what? You're not perfect. Have you ever made a mistake? We've all made mistakes. That's what happens. But you have to understand that everyone you meet is fighting a battle that you may not know anything about. So it's always just best to be kind. I like to say that the workplace is a non-judgment zone. I know that that's a lot to ask of people, but if you just keep those assumptions in check and instead have positive and honest, open dialogue, then you can create meaningful relationships, not based on assumptions. So I love this. This is what Clarice put into our little presentations. Let's see if it'll run today. Oh, we had this cool little video clip, and it doesn't appear that it's going to run, but it's a song, to the left, to the left. There it goes. Awesome. You didn't have to hear me sing. So assumptions to the left. And what is the opposite of judgment? Well, it's compassion. So giving each other a little bit of grace, giving yourself some grace, and certainly knowing that as human beings, we're going to make mistakes. And sometimes that means saying something that you didn't mean to be inappropriate, but then having that dialogue to be able to clarify what was really meant in that conversation so we can continue to develop good relationships with each other. And that leads us to two sides to every story, right? No one person is right. I have to deal with a lot of conflict throughout the day, mediating between individuals or supervisors and members of their team, even within leadership. And you've got their story and your story, and I will say most of the time the truth is sometimes in between there because everybody holds on to what is most meaningful for them, and sometimes opening up that mind and being receptive to the other person's side is how you can come together and resolve issues in a calm manner. So it's really not fair to, not listen to the other person's side of the story. And it does create a lot of conflict in the team if you don't do that. Because we can't always be right. Remember, there are always two sides to every story. People forget when that happens, and it makes sometimes one side gets exaggerated to make themselves look good, and unfortunately make other people's look bad. A wise person once told me, it's better to be kind than righteous. So I remember that. And righteousness is that feeling or that belief that you're so right that that other person has to be wrong. And it actually is so severe that it can lead to behavior or actions that are harmful to other people. That righteousness can build up in me when I just know that I'm right. And that's my cue to take a step back, take a deep breath and say, it's better to be kind than right. So let me figure this out. Let me get their side. Let me understand them a lot better. And let's have a conversation so that we can work on that together. How about collaboration with leadership? There's different departments, different tasks, different job titles. Again, when we get to the rules of engagement, I'll talk about the different roles that each of us plays within the laboratory. You do have to stay focused on your own task, but also understand the part that you play in the entire team with your contribution. And sometimes we get a little bit wrapped up in the drama and pay, get engaged in things that really are none of our business. And so we talk about those professional boundaries. I love this diagram on the right here, the things that you can control, right? That circle. You can only control your own attitude, your own effort, your own behavior, and your own actions. Everything around that are things that are outside of your control. What other people do, what their opinions are. Their feelings are not your responsibility. Now, we do have to treat people well, so we're not intentionally hurting people's feelings, but you can't control how they feel. So that's their responsibility to speak up if you've said something that you didn't intend to hurt their feelings. And so, again, making sure that you have those good working relationships. And mistakes, I've already mentioned, we're all human. I know that I take to heart any mistake that I make and do my best to correct that. Everybody's the same. Nobody likes to make a mistake. As long as we're learning from them and getting better, that's all that matters. So, what causes people to cross that professional boundary? Getting involved in that drama, those things that they really shouldn't get involved in. Well, a lot of us, we like to be liked. So perhaps we engage in conversations when we shouldn't. I know that there are often people that want to overshare some of their drama in their world because they think that's how you make that connection for friends. And I'll just say that that makes a negative connection. Your friends should be there to support you, to always encourage you, to challenge you. And you don't want to kind of get wrapped up in all of that negativity and all of that drama. That's not really a true friendship. It's just a friendship based on negativity because guess what? People love to complain. Misery loves company. Remember that 14-1? Our brains are always going to be geared towards that negativity. We often set unreal expectations for ourselves and others, and then we become disappointed. If we are disappointed in another person, sometimes we talk about that person behind their back. And that's really, really unprofessional. All that does is, as I mentioned, lead to a toxic work environment. Often we think we're trying to help. We want to understand what's going on so we can help or we can do something differently to bring the team up. Again, be careful if you're truly trying to help or if you just want to know the dirt. That sometimes gets the best of all of us. I understand that. And I think a lot of this comes, when we sometimes struggle with that low self-esteem. We're reaching out, we're wanting those connections, but it's not always healthy, some of those connections that we make. And so, if you are working with somebody that overshares or somebody that's very negative and likes to talk about people behind their back or is dragging you into some of the drama that you just don't want to be a part of, but you're not comfortable, maybe you don't know how to ask them to stop, please check in with your supervisor or come to me. I can certainly give you lots of points. I know your supervisors can as well. We can even role play to help you have the right dialogue, or perhaps we just need to bring the two of you together and be a mediator, and help whatever we can with that situation to stop that negativity and stop the drama. So what happens if we don't develop those professional boundaries? Well, the mental health issues. My goodness, our work is stressful enough, right? We're taking care of sick people. We don't want to create a lot more anxiety by working with people that, are just creating a lot of toxicity or talking about people behind their back. And then I truly do believe that the definition of depression is built up anxiety. If you have anxiety for such a long time and you don't know how to deal with it or you don't get help dealing with it, then that anxiety just goes inside and it turns into a deep depression. Been there. I know how that feels and it doesn't feel good. Conflict in relationships. Well, you're getting those unresolved issues. Sometimes that can cause disrespectful communication. If you don't know how to say it correctly, you might say it wrong. Would you just shut up for a minute? And that's probably not what you meant to say, even though that's what you're hearing in your head. And that's what I mean by build up until blow up. You say things that you might regret later. Oftentimes, in those conversations, we're talking about other people, we're blaming. And I always like to point out, if you've got one finger pointed at somebody else, you've got three fingers pointing back at you. Think about that. And of course, that conflict, that bullying, that's what talking about people behind their backs is. It's really a form of bullying. And we don't want to be bullies. We don't like to be bullied. So try to refrain from that inappropriate and unprofessional conversation. And of course, all of this can lead to burnout. You get frustrated because you don't really know how to address the situation. You don't know what to say, so you tend to put up with it, excuse me. You put up with it. And ignoring it is not going to make it go away. And a lot of people don't want to bring it to me or their supervisor because they're afraid of getting someone in trouble. I like to think of it as we all want to be part of a healthy, happy team. And maybe I'm doing something that is creating some anxiety for people. I would certainly want to know that so then I can change my behavior or address that individual with an apology. I want us all to really love coming to work every day. So it's not getting people in trouble. It's giving us an opportunity to fix something that might be broken. Maybe somebody has said, I tried to address it before, nothing ever changes. I took this to Patty and nothing ever got resolved. Please let me know if I drop the ball. I hear sometimes that, I brought this to my supervisor, but nothing is getting changed. I do have those conversations with the supervisor, and I know myself. I want to make sure that I'm addressing the needs of everyone in the department. And, after a while, you just begin to feel like what you do doesn't matter. And that's what creates that burnout for people wanting to quit work. And I've been to a point in my life where, it's not worth it anymore. I didn't sign up for this, but we want to be there and support each other. And that's why North Kensington Hospital has their employee assistance program. You can always reach out to them as well. I found that very helpful multiple times throughout my career if I have that opportunity within my workplace and you get some good counseling and there's a lot of great information out there. And again, don't ever hesitate to come to me if you think there's something that I can help with. So how do you work with somebody that you might not like? Well, if you're a happy person, then you really most always find a healthy way to deal with people that, don't really fit with the kind of person you are, but you find ways to work with them anyway. It's just a professional relationship. You don't have to be best friends. Everybody has a different personality, but you do have to make that choice to be the adult and, see what you can do, maybe to improve that relationship. If you find yourself irritated, every time you see that person, maybe it's your opportunity to ask them if they need some help. Maybe they're frustrated with you for whatever reason, and a great way to start a conversation is, have I done anything to upset you? Because our relationship is really important to me, and then sometimes that opens up that dialogue. You certainly don't want to be spiteful. Well, they did this to me, so I'm going to do that to them. You do need to make sure that we're treating everybody on the team with kindness and respect. Stay out of the negativity that's kind of a common theme on this presentation. We can share our concerns and ideas, but just like our suggestion box, if you put that in an S bar, situation, background, assessment, and recommendation, then you're coming with a solution, and that makes a big difference. If you've thought it through to the point where you think you have a great idea, please share it. We're all about that, and we want to improve the team and improve our laboratory. Think about success team as a whole and not just your tunnel vision, not just your perspective as a person, but you matter. So, if there are things that you think can be then improved, then we want to make sure that we hear that. Don't letting your ego get in the way. We already talked a little bit about always thinking that you're right and perhaps being righteous and thinking other people are wrong. Just really understand that it is only one part of your day. If you're working 12-hour shifts, that's a long shift to be with somebody, but you're doing it 3 days a week. So do your best to just remain professional with the people that you work with, even if you're not best friends with them. So think about your character. Who would you rather work with? Somebody that's happy or somebody that's unhappy? Character is that representation of one's personality that is different than other people, and that's okay. We want to celebrate our differences. But you also have to demonstrate good character by always being respectful and helpful. Doing the right thing, regardless if people are watching. We know what the right thing is. So making sure that you're using your time wisely and treating each other well and taking good care of our patients. And then being able to resolve conflicts in an open, direct, respectful manner. If you're having trouble with that, as I mentioned, your supervisor or myself can help. Being thoughtful helps you think of others and not just yourself. So I like to live in a spirit of gratitude, being grateful for the opportunities I have, even the challenges, because then I learn something. And every time I'm learning, I get better. Be aware that we are face of the lab and that our behavior in front of our patients must always be professional. Do not have unprofessional conversations or behavior in front of our patients. Now, I do get stories of, some of our lab assistants in the room and perhaps another healthcare professional, maybe the nurse, maybe the doctor, somebody else has been unprofessional in front of the patient. That does not mean it gives you license to do the same back. It does mean that you are the adult and you can ask them to step out of the room and address it, not in front of the patient. Say, hey, do you have a second? I'd like to touch base with you here I have a question out in the hall. And then just say, you know what? We were in front of the patient there and I just kind of felt attacked. Is there something that I'm not doing right, or can we work together for a better relationship? Because I certainly don't want to have this conflict in front of our patients. That only creates fear for our patients and lack of trust, because if they see that their healthcare team is not getting along well together, then they truly believe they're not getting good care, and that's probably the truth. So how should we treat one another? Let's talk a little bit about respect for your leadership, your managers, your supervisors, or myself. Clarice put this in here that, our leadership should never feel like they switch roles. In other words, the team should not talk to their leadership as if they're the boss. I like to have all ideas on the table. If somebody feels passionate about something, let's talk about that. I don't necessarily get my feelings hurt if I, feel like somebody is trying to be the boss. However, I do understand that some people can be subordinate and be argumentative with their leadership. That's never a good thing. Just remember, if you are going to display that kind of behavior, it does not look good for you, and that leader will remember that moving forward. And if that behavior continues, then maybe need to have a conversation, and that would uh, be an expectation that you improve that behavior and not be rude in front of the team towards your manager. It really is not what you say, but how you say it. So, keep your tone down. Again, that amygdala is firing up. If you're angry, calm down, allow it to, move to a better part of your brain. It comes through here, and then the executive part of your brain, then you can think and speak more professionally. Every encounter that you have with your leadership should really be professional. It's really with each other. Whether it is leadership for each other, it should stay professional. Confrontation is if it's done well, can be very appropriate. Confrontation is one thing, but respectfully requesting conversation is very different. Certainly, raising your voices or refusing to do things can be a problem. And if a situation arises, we should all be able to resolve the issues in a calm manner. There should never be heated conversations in the workplace, period. I like this little graphic. If you give respect, you're going to get respect in return. How about how we treat each other, our peers? Respect your peers by being considerate of their feelings. Everyone is entitled to their own opinions, but remember that, your behavior, you can have control over that, and keeping that in check, professional, to reduce some of that conflict. That includes your tone, your body language, maybe the way you verbalize things so that it's not disruptive. Practicing that professional both inside and outside the lab, how we interact in front of others. You really never know who's watching. So remember that if you're out about in the hospital, whether you're on a patient floor or you're walking down that long main highway, there are other people that are observing, and perhaps you're in a patient care area with earbuds. That is against our hospital policy. And if you've got another leader within the organization asking you to remove them, you respectfully remove them. They are leadership too, even though they're not exactly in the laboratory. So we do want to follow all of our processes and be respectful no matter who we are encountering, because you just never know who it might be. And that behavior can be an intentional, right? It's something that you do on purpose. You can control your own behavior. Sometimes people like to be sarcastic. They think that's kind of a funny way to perhaps deal with a difficult situation. I always question, is that really meant to be funny? Or are you really kind of digging and having some criticized behavior or trying to hurt somebody? Just try to keep that open and honest dialogue. Sarcasm really is not professional. Mention gossip. It's talking about people behind their backs is really, really an unprofessional behavior that only creates problems. Also, intentional behavior can be good, right? Being a good team player, being productive, using your time wisely, asking your team members if they need help. If you're done with your tasks, that's all intentional behavior, and that's a good thing. And then, maybe you are not using your time wisely, and if you've got a little bit of downtime, you're on your phone too much, or doing things that you shouldn't be doing, in which case then you're not doing your fair share of work. And that's the definition of a slacker. Let's dig a little bit deeper into that gossip, because I got to tell you, that's one of my triggers. I do believe gossip is unkind. One of my core values is kindness. And so when I see people gossiping about others, I just really want to put the foundation of how hurtful that is. It creates that toxic work environment. It's negative. It's manipulation. It's actual bullying. It's discriminating against people, and it can be so bad that it causes a negative team culture. Nobody wants to work in a team that has a negative culture. And, that negative culture is really all about a lack of trust. And I already mentioned the mental health issues with anxiety and then the burnout and, some of the difficulties and conflict of relationships. It's not a good thing. If not addressed, it gets worse. So that's why I'm addressing it in our education module today. And, while it has a negative impact on the team, it certainly also then ekes out and poisons the hospital. It can interfere with good patient care. It causes departments to fail their goals, and I'm accountable for that. So that's why it's important for me to address it with each of you. It can impact every team member, and it truly makes people not want to come to work. And we want to really foster a positive and engaging team culture so that people do want to come to work. So, what is teamwork? It's really that collaboration and working together to complete a common goal. So, in the lab, we're all a team, regardless of what role we play, what department we work in. Those roles are different, but it takes all of us to take good care of our patients. So, lab assistants, lab scientists, our secretarial team, all of the other individuals that make things work, all of our supervisors, and certainly I understand the role that I play in making the team positive and successful. We truly are stronger when we all work together. And constructive criticism, what's that about? It's kind of funny. I can have a conversation with somebody and then I hear later that they told a friend of theirs, well, Patty yelled at me. I just I hope that all of you could say that I've never raised my voice. I am required, though, to address issues that I believe can make you stronger or make you better. I'm invested in each one of your success. So if I do have to address the situation, it really is with the intent that I want you to get better. I want you to have a great experience working at North Kansas City Hospital. There's just some things that are getting in your way. And if we can talk about those and I can find out how I can help, that's what constructive criticism is. It's really that clear feedback or advice that's given to help for areas of improvement. The tone, I have to think a lot about how I present that constructive criticism, and I want to encourage the supervisors. Even among peer to peer, you can have that constructive criticism. Hey, I saw you doing this. I thought we were supposed to do it this way. So, being more inquisitive. I like to say when I get furious, I want to get curious. So really trying to reduce some of that frustration I'm feeling and ask questions instead so I can understand better. If we don't say anything about mistakes happening, how are we going to know that there are things done incorrectly? It is my job and the supervisor's job to create a safe environment where it's okay to make mistakes because we're human beings and we want to be able to create that transparency so that we can talk about the mistakes and get better. I've worked in punitive work environments, and all that does is have everybody sweep things under the rug because they're so afraid of getting in trouble. We want to reverse that. It has to be a safe environment where it's okay to make a mistake so that we can talk about those and learn how we can get better. And for the sake of the patients, we want to be able to continue to grow and get better so we can prevent mistakes in the future. So start on a positive note and end on a positive note. I like this quote that Clarice put in here. If you're not open to constructive criticism, then you're not open to truly growing as a person. And while sometimes those conversations can feel a little uncomfortable, it really is all about your growth. And please have them with me if I'm doing something that you think that I need to improve upon. I'm all open to that as well. How about getting set in your ways? You can't tell me nothing. I will admit that I'm celebrating my 40th year as a laboratory professional this month, but I can tell you every day is a learning opportunity for me. I don't care how long I've been doing this. It's always fresh. There's always something to learn, and I want to keep that growth mindset. So, let's look at the difference between the fixed and the growth, right? Fixed mindset, failure is the limit of my abilities, but instead, failure is an opportunity to grow. Think about that. We're addressing mistakes so we can get better. How about the fixed mindset? I don't like to be challenged, but I love challenges because that gets opportunities so that we can grow, we can be stronger, we can be better. So having that growth mindset makes a pretty big difference. And then, people with that fixed mindset, they don't always like to try new things, right? Well, this is the way we've always done it. I will admit, I heard that a little bit when I first started with the team. That's something that always makes me pause. But being open-minded and trying new things, maybe there are different ways or better ways to do things, or let's try it. It didn't work, so let's go back to, the way it was done before. That's something that you can learn for sure. Being cordial. So what does that mean? It really is, it means being polite and pleasant. We should always be cordial, no matter what the situation is. Remaining that professional, working well with each other. Remember why you're here. Certainly you can make friends along the way. That's a great thing, but we've already covered the fact that not everybody's going to be your best friend. But we need to be respectful of each other and be thoughtful of another person's feelings so that we can, get our work done well and take good care of our patients. And the next thing you know, the day is done and you get to go home and spend time with your loved ones. So what is teamwork? Well, it's kind of corny. Teamwork makes the dream work. But it really is building that trust, and that requires the communication. It takes tolerance. It creates understanding. You have to develop a relationship if you're going to have true teamwork. It's that combined commitment to overcome obstacles. It's support, it's encouragement. It really is striving to work together and doing our best every day. Providing the support to help others better understand themselves and succeed in their endeavors as well. So a good team member is going to be listening to others, they're going to be cooperative, or they're going to appreciate the differences. We want to celebrate. Maybe there's somebody doing it a different way. You can learn from that. Hey, you've got a new skill now. It is shared responsibility and sharing ideas and options. It takes collaboration, it takes trust, and it takes accountability. So what is accountability? Well, it's really that ownership, right? Owning up to the obligation and not making excuses when things fail. We love to celebrate when things go well, and then all of a sudden, everybody's gone when something fails. Um, I don't like that. I think, again, we're missing out on a learning opportunity. But if things go wrong, no one wants to take that responsibility. They may fear that, being accountable for that will, put a poor light on them. I don't believe so. I think as we work as a team, we're always going to make mistakes. You want that individual that speaks up. Have you ever been in a room and somebody's kicking around a bunch of ideas, but you're afraid to speak up because, oh my gosh, what if everybody laughs at me? No, 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 no. It's that safe environment where just throw things out there can create so much innovation and so much great information that is when good decisions are made, when everybody has that opportunity to speak up and provide input. We typically like to include others in situations that may or may not be their responsibility. Again, trying that unprofessional behavior, dragging them into some drama that might not be any of their business, but then, sometimes those people have somebody to blame, unfortunately, if things don't go well. Again, you can only control your own behavior, your own opinions, your own thoughts. But really, being accountable means that you're taking ownership of your own actions and personal behavior. Can't always control what happens to you, but you can control your reaction to that. This is a great graphic. This is years and years old. You can see the book that I took it from was written in 1994. Probably some of you weren't even born then, but I love the way this visual works. It's called above the line behavior and below the line behavior. So you're above the line are all those acceptable behaviors, right? Those professional things. You're going to acknowledge that reality. You're going to own it. So that ownership, you're going to find solutions. If things aren't going well, own it and then find a different way to do it and then make it happen. So that's all, being responsible and having good accountability. Let's talk about below the line behaviors, those victim behaviors. Things happen to you. You have no control. Oh my gosh, poor me. A lot of people find themselves in situations where they'll just wait and hope it goes away. It never does, right? Things just get worse unless you deal with it, or at least, come to your supervisor or myself and say, hey, here's something that I think I made a mistake and what do I need to do next? That is awesome. That's really, really good accountability. Some people make excuses. Well, I could have done that, except I was too busy or I did this. Well, if you coulda, woulda, shoulda, you're making excuses. And what's the truth in there? You make time for the things that are important. And you also make sure that we're always taking good care of our patients, no matter if you're too busy, you're asking for help, you're making sure that things get done in a timely manner, working well within your team. I talked about blame, that one finger out and three fingers pointing back. And then my old time favorite, I didn't know. I've been in many work situations. You've got your training document. They do the checklist that they've been trained, they've been trained, they've been trained. I started adding an attestation comment at the end that says, as the trainee, the person being trained, I have been trained on all of the situations above. I feel comfortable performing every single item on this list, and I've had an opportunity to have all my questions answered and feel confident that I can do the task at hand. And then you've got the attestation of the trainer that says, I feel comfortable releasing this person for work. They've accomplished all the tasks that I've checked off for, this individual for. And guess what? You get down the road a little ways and something doesn't go well. And maybe that person that was trained said, well, I didn't know. Nobody told me that I was supposed to do it that way. Well, guess what? You pull out the training sheet and here you are. Here's your signature. Help me understand where the gap is because you've assigned here that you're comfortable doing all these things and you knew at the time that was required. So let's figure this out so we can get it done appropriately moving forward. That's accountability. So this leads me to my rules of engagement. This is something that I put together at a previous workplace. It wasn't even my third day there, and the environment was so negative and so toxic that I came up with a commitment. So I call this the commitment to excellence. And I actually used this tool in a previous workplace where we went through it on their very first day. And after I went through it, I asked them if they had any heartburn around it, if they had any questions. We had a lot of open discussion and dialogue of what those expectations were. And then I had them sign it, and it was a commitment. And therefore, once again, if there was a gap in performance or behavior that was in opposition of these rules of engagement, then I could pull that document out and say, let's have a conversation about this, that, and the other, because here's where I'm seeing that you have committed to this behavior, but here's a gap. Here's the behavior that's being observed or being brought to me by others. And why don't you tell me what's going on so I can hear your side? So let's just go through each of them a little bit. The first one is I will always do my best, right? I mentioned that earlier. I think you wake up in the morning and you just want to do your best. I really do not believe anybody wakes up and says, I'm really going to mess with Patty today. I'm really going to make her miserable. No, things just get in the way. We intended to do our best, but we stepped on our cat that morning or all the other things. And so we might be a little bit grumpy. I like to remind everybody on the team that if every single one of us has committed to always doing their best, and you get frustrated with one of your team members, remember that they have also committed to doing their best. So this is your opportunity to say, hey, what's going on? Are you doing okay today? Is there something I can help you with? Because, you just seem to be a little off. And I know that you want to do your best today. And so that's how you support your team members. That's how you find out, oh, you're not feeling really that great, but you really wanted to come to work today. And maybe it is best if you just check in with your supervisor and go home because you're not going to be at your best if you're not feeling well, those kind of things. So really checking in and always remembering that each one of us has committed to doing our best every day. I will always treat others with kindness and respect. Well, that's pretty much the theme of this entire educational module. We do want to treat each other. We learn that in kindergarten. I hope all of you learn that. And you can catch a lot more bees with honey than you can vinegar. So being nice to people, and that really creates a lot more fluidity in the team, and people want to work well together. This one's very important to me. I will keep the patient in the center of all my decisions and actions. If we're always focused on the patient, we're going to do the right thing every time. So, oh, doggone it, I've got a time stat in 15 minutes and I've got this, that, and the other. Well, I'm just going to skip the time stat or time study. It really doesn't matter that much anyway. I'll get to it when I can. Is that really what's best for the patient? I mean, that clinician has ordered that specific test for that time for a reason, because it's important for their care, for their therapeutic intervention. That has to be drawn at that time. So remember, that's what's best for the patient, to get those draws at that time. How about, you're working on your analyzer. Maybe the QC, you've noticed that it's trending. It's really bumping up there on your 2SD, getting 3SD, but it's in, right? It's in. Whoo, thank God it's in. Well, is that really what's best for our patient? Think about a sodium. If a person is having issues with their electrolytes, that, point, sodium of, 130 and 131 can make a difference in, how they are 132, 142. It can make a difference in their care. So yes, I know that it's a hassle to have to change different parts on the analyzer and recalibrate. But if we're putting the patient in the middle of all of our decisions and actions, we're going to take good care of them, and that's why we're here. I will commit to excellence and working well within my team. A lot we've talked about is how to work well within your team. Even if you don't really like that person, you're just a different personality, that's okay. Let them be them. You can be you. If it creates a problem, then go to your supervisor. But do your best every day, to working well within that team. And that means checking in with each other. Hey, do you need any help? I've got a little bit of downtime. I can do this. I can do that. It's incredible how you can really foster those meaningful relationships that way. And my goodness, I will not talk about others behind their backs. How many times do I need to say that today? I will bring my concerns to leadership. It's toxic, and people know you're talking about them behind their back. It doesn't feel good. It is bullying, and we don't want to bully people. We don't want to be thought of as being bullies. So just stop it. I will not engage with someone who's talking behind someone else's back. Yeah, we love that negativity. Bring it on. Right. That lights up that part of our brain that just loves that negativity. But remember, it's not good. And it just, now you brought somebody else down if you're sharing that negativity. Now two people are being unproductive and creating more of a toxic work environment. So when we talked about, that professional behavior and not crossing that professional barrier or boundary, what I coach people to say is, number one, hey, I can tell you're upset. You're engaging in them. You have that empathy. I can tell you're upset. Have you taken this concern to Christina, to Carla, to Susan? Have you taken that concern to Patty? Talking about someone behind their back is not going to create change. It's only going to create more drama. But if you take that situation to somebody who can implement change, like leadership, then you'll be able to get things turned around and things will get better. So again, somebody comes up to you and starts talking about somebody behind their back, just say, hey, I can tell you're really upset. Have you taken that concern to Patty? I will not use professional time for personal matters, the phone, internet, shopping. Hey, we need that brain drain every now and then. I get it. There are times where I am in between running to lunch, or maybe I've got 10 minutes before a meeting stops. Yep, I open up my phone. I look perhaps at LinkedIn. It's that little bit of respite to give my brain a little bit of rest before it needs to turn on and go another direction. But I'm talking 10 minutes here. It should never be, and be on break, right? You get your 20-minute break in the morning, a 20-minute break later in the afternoon. You've got 30 minutes for lunch. Be mindful of your time. And that's when you can surf the internet. You can do your shopping, those kind of things. I found myself today, oh my gosh, my gas bill is due. I need to get that paid. Boom. Got on, my bank website, got that paid really quick. I understand things have to get done. At the same time, don't let it go for, 45 minutes, an hour, where it can create problems with the team if you're not helping them out and doing patient care. I know that I'm an important part of the whole. I can't tell you how many times I've heard, oh, I'm just a laboratory assistant. Are you kidding me? My goodness. You are the face of the lab. You're out there. You're in front of the patients. If the patient has an amazing experience, it's because you have provided them that care. The opposite is true too. If they've had a bad experience, you don't want to create those or be in the middle of those. But the the laboratory assistants collect all the samples too. So it's because you have an excellent blood draw that creates an excellent lab value. The hemolysis, the clotting, the things like that. We can't produce good lab values without a good phlebotomist or a lab assistant. And sometimes I hear, well, I'm just the lab scientist. Are you kidding me? You're the ones that run all the analyzers. You have all the accuracy, the precision. You make the decisions on the quality control and putting out the best possible lab results that take good care of our patients and drive decisions for those patients. Well, I'm just the manager here. Are you kidding? You're one of the leaders of the lab. It's because of you that we're so successful, and you're leading your teams towards that success. We all are such important players on this team. So every single one of us is very much an important part of the whole, important part of the team, no matter what your role you play. So the goal is more important than the role. I have a different role as a director, but I certainly want to know if I'm going in a direction you don't agree with, or I've made a decision that you think is going to cause problems for the team or the hospital. You need to address that with me. You need to come in my office. That's why I always have the door open. Very rarely is my door shut. You can send me an email if you work an opposite shift. I try to be there 2 evenings a month. I know it's not much, but I'm trying to, create those relationships with everybody. I really want to make sure that I'm accessible, and that, we are a team. So we need to work together, no, regardless of our role. So if that goal is more important, what is the goal? Well, the goal is providing the best care for our patients and helping each other be successful. So sometimes that means having that difficult conversation, or maybe that means, hey, I'm struggling with this, that, or the other. Can you help me with that? And taking some concerns to your manager or to me. That's what we're here for. We're here to support you. We're here to help you. We are here to make sure that our patients get the best care possible. So let's wrap this up, right? A patient is number one. We do want to stick together and make sure that our team is functioning the best. A good customer service starts with you. It starts with me. It starts with every single one of us. Remember to always have a smile on your face. We can't always be really happy with maybe something that's going on in our lives, but we can try to be cheerful and put your best foot forward, and have a smile on your face when you're working with your team and in front of your patients. That means trying to keep personal issues at home. It's just impossible some days. I get that. But, again, creating a lot of drama within the team can also be disruptive. We want to be there to support you, but we also want to provide you or, put you in the right direction to get the help that you need, which is the Employees Assistance Program. Or, I can make recommendations for some other resources that might be helpful to you. Happy to do that. Never engaging in gossip. Have we heard that before today? Always remaining professional. Don't forget that you are one half of every relationship. So your input matters. How you treat others matters. If you give respect, you'll get respect, all of those things. You are responsible for your own happiness. I work with people that just don't want to see the sunny side of the street. Their glass is always half empty, whatever. I just know that I've got a lot of things to be grateful for. I do believe many members of our team, every single one of you, has something to be grateful for. You've got somebody that loves you. I hope you've got great housing. You've got a great job. I do believe that North Kansas City Hospital is a great place to work. I think our team is very strong. I think overall we have a very positive team environment. Today's conversation was pretty much just education about what is important and what not to do, not accusing anybody of having these behaviors, just creating an understanding of how we can make our team stronger and better. Happy people make a happy work environment. That's true. Do your best every day. Follow the rules of engagement, and be honest and take accountability. You make a difference and you're very valued. You're a very valued member of the team. Everything you say and do matters. I certainly take that very much to heart, and I want people to understand too that what you say and do matters, because you're influencing the team and you're influencing our patients, and you're also influencing the success of the laboratory. So thank you very much. Remember, customer service is simply the right thing to do. And if you have any questions regarding this presentation, please shoot either Clarice or myself an email. Again, many thanks to Clarice for her wonderful insight and use of appropriate language to really define some of these difficult terms. I do have a quiz so that you can get your CEU requirement. So I will be sending that out here shortly, and kind of haven't decided how I'm going to do the quiz. I know that if it's on paper, it's just kind of too tempting to share the answers so that everybody gets it right. I don't understand that, but it happens. So I might put it in some kind of electric format so that every response is unique. Haven't quite thought through that yet, but I really do appreciate your attention. Again, focusing on putting the patient in the center of all of our actions and decisions will ensure that you're always having the best customer service. Thank you. And thank you for being a member of the team. And I really feel like it's a privilege to be your director, and love my job. So thanks, everybody. Have a good evening, and I'll be following up soon. Take care. And we need to stop. Let's see how I stop.